Tri-State Defenders Community Forum. We're so pleased to be here in the Hickory Hill community and here at the Hickory Hill Community Center and Police Precinct. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you.
Tri-State Defender has put on these community forums across the city over the past several months with Education Forum and the Southbrook Shopping Center with a public safety forum that we'll have here tonight, and that'll be followed up by a forum that we will do on government and public policy that will come in October, and then an economic development forum in November. Andrea, if you would come up just a minute and thank those who've been working with us as sponsors of our various community forums. And then from there, Lori Robinson will come in and be the moderator for our discussion. We are so pleased to have a panel of real leaders in public safety here with us today and sharing that with this community. Andrea is our Director of Sales Digital Marketing with Tri-State Defenders, so anyone feel a need to run an ad or to put forth good wishes in the press, Andrea would be the person to talk to. Please welcome Andrea Ely.
Good evening, everyone. We just want to say again, thank you for attending. This is our 4th installation of TSD in the community. We started back in March. Police Chief, Ms. CJ, she was starting it off with us with the other ladies that we had for Women's History Month. We went into mental health and wellness, and then our last installation we just had was on education. We have 2 more in October, which will be on government and politics, and in November it will be on entrepreneurship, which will kind of lead us into our Best in Black Awards as well. Just wanted to just shout out our sponsors, of course, the Hickory Hill Community Center, to allow us to have this forum here today. We have Xfinity, who has been one of our sponsors for the past 2, and we also have WNT Contracting Corporation. There are some gentlemen that are into the construction business, and they are very well aware of how the community affects everyone, so they wanted to be involved. And especially Dr. Talisa Franklin. She's one of our newer sponsors. Great partnership that we have with her as well going forward with Tri-State Defender. But again, thank you all for coming. Please make sure that you all scan our QR code and give us your feedback on what you thought about tonight. Have your questions ready for our panelists that we have here, and Laura should be walking in soon. Thank you.
Thank you. We are going to go ahead and begin with our discussion just by having introductions of our panelists. And Chief Davis, why don't we start with you and give us your perspective on the safeness in our community. Are we safe or are we safer?
Well, I think we're safe and we're safer. CJ Davis, City of Olympus Police Department, thank you for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this panel today. We can never be too safe. We are working and moving in the right direction, but one victim is too many victims when we think in terms of how that person is being impacted, whether it's a theft or whether it's some type of crime against the person, a physical crime. All of it is serious. So even though we talk about numbers really don't resonate for people who are victims of crime. We just know that overall we're moving in the right direction, but we do know that we got more work to do. So I want to definitely give kudos to the men and women of the Memphis Police Department, some of the leadership that is here tonight in support of this forum, and they'll be here to answer any questions later on as well. If someone has a specific issue that we need to drill down on, they're here for that reason. So thank you for giving us an opportunity to be participants in this panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. D.A. Mulroy, welcome. If you would introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about what the Office of District Attorney of Shelby County performs for the citizens as far as safety.
Sure, thank you, Calvin. Let me start off by thanking the Tri-State Defender for inviting me and for putting on on forums like this and how important Tri-State Defender is for the community. I also wanted to give a shout out to one particular member of the audience who usually isn't always at these public events, but is here tonight. Someone who has voluntarily remained married to me for 34 years, and that's my wife, Amy Mole, right back there. Hello, Amy. So I am the elected district attorney for Shelby County, and that means that I'm in charge of prosecutions for all state law offenses. So we know that there's a U.S. attorney here in Memphis, and if it's a federal crime, he's in charge of prosecuting that, or she. But when it comes to all the other types of crimes, which is the vast majority of offenses that are prosecuted, I am the chief prosecutor. I manage an office of 230 people, that's 120 prosecutors. We're in charge of prosecuting those cases.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, everyone. Sorry I'm tardy to the party. Lori Spicer Robertson. I will let you continue your intros. Mr. Gibbons, go right ahead. Yes.
Since I think it is, right? I'm Bill Gibbons, and I wear actually two hats through a memorandum of agreement between the University of Memphis and the Crime Commission. I'm actually a University of Memphis employee, and I'm executive director of the Public Safety Institute at the university. It is basically an applied research institute, really designed to try to identify best practices to prevent and reduce crime. So we take a look at various programs, try to assess those programs, determine whether they are working or not. If they're not working, is it because they're just a bad idea, or is it because they need to be tweaked in some way? And we have so far, over the last 5 or 6 years, issued 20 different assessments or evaluations, primarily on programs within our community. Through that memorandum of agreement, I also work with the Memphis Shelby Crime Commission. It is a 501c nonprofit, which is an advocate for implementing best practices. So you have the university trying to identify best practices, and then you have the Crime Commission advocating implementation of those best practices. And I work very closely with these individuals, diplomatically pushing them to implement best practices, and they do a pretty good job of it too. Hopefully we'll be able to talk about that. It's kind of a subcategory of that. Both the Public Safety Institute and the Crime Commission also release a lot of data on a regular basis to the public, and it's also on our website, because we think it's important for the public to understand kind of where we stand with regard to crime. Is it going up or is it going down? We try to do a little analysis in terms of determining why it's going up or why it's going down. So that's another part of what we do.
Sheriff Floyd Bynum, please, yes, go ahead and introduce yourself as well.
Okay. Well, they did a little different before you got here.
Oh, did they? I missed that. What was the...
Hi, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. I'm Shelby County Sheriff Floyd Bonner. It is indeed a pleasure to be here. I also want to thank the Tri-State Defender for hosting us here today and giving us an opportunity to speak with you on this very, very important subject of public safety. I kind of go along with what Chief Davis said. Members of the Shelby County Sheriff's Office, we work extremely hard to keep everyone safe. As you know, our jurisdiction is, we mainly patrol out in unincorporated areas of Shelby County, but there's so many other responsibilities that the sheriff duties that we have. You see me on the news all the time speaking about the jail, then there's the courts, then there's future, then narcotics. We are in full service law enforcement agency, and I don't know if everyone always know that. But we take our jobs very, very seriously. I was just talking to one of the patrolmen when we had a meeting with the DA today, looking at some stats and numbers, and we're always looking at charts and graphs and what's crime driving and what can we do to drive the crime down in unincorporated Shelby County. But we work with everyone that you see here at the table. No one that's in this law enforcement circle in Shelby County that we don't work with. We have officers on task force, the U.S. Marshal's office, and just everywhere. So it's a big job, and it takes a team, it takes a village to get it all done. But again, I'm happy to be here tonight. Thank you.
All right, give our panel a round of applause, please. I will not hold this. I want us to dive right into this conversation. So first question, of course, will go to Mr. Giddens, because as we think about public safety, we want to know the data. And sometimes we have our own perceptions of, is Memphis and Shelby County safe, or is it just safe? But I wanted to ask you, what trends, what data have you seen most recently that you can share with this room, but also the community, that we need to know as we think about safety?
Well, the recent trends are very, very promising. First of all, in terms of our sources of data, we get a lot of crime data from the Memphis Police Department, from the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation, and the Sheriff's Office has a lot of great jail data. And I want to commend all three of those agencies, TBI, Memphis Police Department, and the Sheriff's Office, for being very transparent in their sharing of data. They don't have to do that, but they do. Whether it's good or bad, they're putting it out there. And I think the community should appreciate that very much. The trends are very good this year. We released, the NPD release sometimes that's every month, right?
Yes.
We release it every quarter, primarily using TBI data, because the TBI data allows us to release county-wide figures in addition to just city of Memphis figures. But what it shows is that for the first half of this year, crime had gone down pretty significantly in every major category across the board compared to 2024. So that's very, very encouraging. 2024 was pretty encouraging, especially in terms of the last part of the year compared to 2023. Do I have a little more time?
Yes.
Let me go into a little more detail about that. Memphis, as in other major cities across the country, really suffered with crime during the pandemic. And when you look at that, the spike in crime during the pandemic, 2020, 2021, and kind of going into 2022, fell into certain categories. And it's kind of interesting. Actually, reported burglaries went down. But when you think about it, people were at home. So there were fewer burglaries. And actually, robberies went down because there were fewer people out on the street and going to events and so on. What really created the spike were really, I mentioned three categories. One, aggravated assaults. Two, murders. And when you think about it, those two categories of crime usually involve individuals who know each other. So there was a lot of stress during the pandemic, and a lot of people getting angry with each other, and I think that's reflected in that spike in aggravated assaults and murders. And we had a spike in vehicle thefts and vehicle break-ins. Frankly, not generalizing here, but we had a lot of young people roaming the streets late at night, not in school, stealing cars, breaking into cars, so we saw that spike as well. But what we began to see in 2024 really, and we were about a year behind a lot of other cities, we began to see a return to kind of normal pre-pandemic levels. So that spike began to kind of wane, and we got back to some fairly normal levels. Part of that was due to a national trend. Part of that also, in my opinion, and maybe we have a chance to get into this sheet, is some specific things that law enforcement was doing in our community being made the best practices to really have an impact on reducing crime. So that's probably more than you wanted to hear, but I think it's kind of interesting to see that trend, crime going up in certain categories during the pandemic, and now going back down, and so far this year, down in every single category.
That's great, thank you for doing that. I am going to turn it over to Chief Davis. As you think about this stats and data, and what partnerships or prevention strategies have been successful in driving these stats, but also how do we scale it and sustain it? Because something for a short time we understand can happen, but how do we make sure it happens for years to go?
Absolutely. So, and just to piggyback off of what Bill Gibbons was saying about numbers sometimes don't mean a lot to community members. You know, what does 10% reduction really mean? What does 20% reduction really mean? How do you define that, you know, in your home when you hear that? Yes, we want to see crime move, you know, to lower numbers, but for Memphis, 22% of overall crimes means about 8,000 less victims than last year. If you really think in terms of, if you really want to put it or visualize what it really means, it's about 8,000 people that were not victimized of crime as opposed to the year before. We want that number to be even bigger. We want less victims, and sometimes we become victim focused. Some of the strategies that have worked for us as partnerships, the people who are sitting at this table that we talk to on a regular basis are critical in making decisions in various types of operations, and not just from a law enforcement standpoint, but also from a community standpoint. We partner with non-governmental organizations, we partner with 501c3s on a regular basis, and there's so many wonderful programs that are out there right now that's giving our young people opportunities. We don't get rewards from arresting people. We get more reward when individuals decide this is not a life for me, and we can hand them off to someone who can give them a better opportunity. So when we start speaking about crime, we want to address and reduce crime from what we call a holistic standpoint. How do we stop our young people from being involved, and not just young people, other individuals? People don't realize it, but when they hear about homicides or murders in the city, a lot of them are between people who know each other. Domestic violence is a significant problem, you know, in our community. And so some of the programs that we have in the police department through what we call a lethality assessment, instead of just going to that person's house and taking a report because this person has become a victim, how do we make sure that that person has safe space, that they don't become victim again? Because when those types of crimes occur, they get worse and worse and can potentially become a fatality. So we take those crimes seriously too, mainly because of the fact that they contribute to our overall homicide and murder rate. Gang-related activity is also, you know, one of the issues that we have really worked, not just with our officers, but also with our federal partners, with the state, with our Metro gang unit, where we sit down and really talk about what is the best track for individuals who refuse to give up the guns and refuse to live in a community without being a nuisance in the community. Our community members have seen how sometimes young people are walking around with long guns. Well, unfortunately, permitless carry has created an environment that allows people to be able to walk around exposing weapons, and sometimes that can be quite intimidating in communities. Sometimes it's an innocent person who is just exercising their right to bear arms, but in certain communities it can be very intimidating, especially if that's a community where we've had gun violence in the past. So we have had to work not just internally, but with all of our partners, with our DA's office, with our U.S. Attorney's office, with our community organizations, and even with our own COPS office, so that we can work with young people. We have a Dare Great program. This is the last thing I'll say. Our Dare Great program, we take in about 1,000 young people every year, and they go through a 9-week program, anti-guns, anti-gangs, anti-drugs. By the time they get done with that program, they are all graduating and excited. And we feel like it's important for us to get to our young people when they're at that 10, 11, and 12, year age, so that you can get it in their heads, the dangers and the risks when they're exposed to different types of nefarious activity, and give them that power and that strength to say no. So we have a multiplicity of things that are going on, but we know that we can't do it by ourselves. We're not working in a silo, and we're tapping into the other resources in the community.
Thank you. This is for DA Mulroy. So, as Chief Davis just alluded, the numbers don't always stick with the community, right? We hear the numbers are going down with crime, but sometimes our public perception is driven by high-profile cases, what we see on the news. How is your office acting with urgency, as well as care to make sure that we are in tune with what's happening in our community, but also making sure you're leveraging these partnerships so that this sustainability can go further?
Right, thank you. Thank you for the question. So Chief Davis said something earlier that I definitely agree with, is that any one crime is too much. So we can look at the numbers, but it also has to be the case that people feel that they are safe. Every one of you deserves to be able to pump gas at night without looking over your shoulder. Every one of you deserves to be driving on the interstate without feeling like you're suddenly in some sort of NASCAR race speedway, right? And we get that. It is undeniably the case that, and as the Crime Commission statistics will bear out, that crime has been steadily dropping, double-digit percentage point decreases across all categories for 6 consecutive quarters. Right? Quarter after quarter, the trend continues. That doesn't necessarily mean that perceptions change overnight. We understand that, and we understand, I understand anyway, that it was coming down from an unacceptably high level. Right? So nobody, I think, on this dais here is popping any champagne corks. We understand we still have work to do, but it's at least good to know that the trend lines are in the right direction. One thing I can tell you is that if you take a look at the data from not just this city, but every city across the nation, study after study after study, it's all consistent with this point. In order to be effective as a deterrent, punishment needs to be swift, it needs to be certain, it need not always be severe. Far more important than the actual number of years is the perception on the part of a would-be criminal that they're likely to get caught and receive some punishment, some significant punishment. And the exact years, of course, can matter, but maybe sometimes we put too much stress on that. What I've tried to do in the DA's office is to make sure that we prioritize properly, because we can't prosecute every case equally. So we've deprioritized things that I think don't matter as much, like simple possession of marijuana or being late on fines and fees. And we've refocused on things that I think do matter, anything which is violent or is a threat to public safety. Let me give you 2 examples of the way we're prioritizing what I've just talked about. One is something that we're calling our V11 program, which we started at the beginning of 2024. Basically, what we've done is we've identified 11 categories of offenses that we think deserve special priority. They are either inherently violent, like aggravated robbery, aggravated assault whenever a gun is discharged, different types of homicide, and also things that we think are associated with violence, like, for example, being caught with a stolen car that has a gun in it, or having one of those Glock switches that converts a handgun to a machine gun, being caught with one of those. If it's a V11 case, the file gets stamped V11 and we give it special priority. What does that mean? It means 3 things. 1, we're tougher on bail. There's a presumption in favor of unaffordable bail so that they will be held pending trial. If they are let out, we insist on monitoring. We monitor them. If they're rearrested, we immediately move to revoke the bail. 2, we move the cases quicker through the system. There's a series of internal deadlines that all the prosecutors have that they know they have. It's a V11 case. 3, we're a little bit more robust in our investigations. So to give you just one example, if it's a V11 case, we listen in on the jail calls. Very often we can prevent a crime from occurring as it's being planned, or we get that extra bit of information that will allow us to get a conviction on a tough case. So that's the V11 program. That's where we're focusing on that. But at the same time, I'm a big believer that you need both carrot and stick. It can't just be the hammer. It's also got to be things that we can do to prevent people from reoffending. So that's what we have as another program that we have called the Meaningful Supervision Program. And all that means is, in a far more robust and systematic way than we had been doing years before, we are insisting that rehabilitative interventions be baked into every plea agreement that we have, especially if it involves any kind of probation, and that it be tailored to the needs of the individual defendant. What does this defendant need? Do they need mental health counseling? Sheriff can tell you what a high percentage of people in that jail have diagnosed or diagnosable mental health conditions. Is it substance abuse treatment? Is it a GED? Is it a job training, job placement, a requirement that they maintain gainful employment for some period of time? We are building that in a systematic way to make sure that things that have been proven across the country to reduce the likelihood that the person will re-offend are built into our plea agreements. Because we, of course, often don't talk about the revolving door at the other end of the criminal justice system, where if we don't do those kinds of things and they get let out, and almost everyone will be let out, they go right back to the only job life they've ever known, which is life on the street. We're trying to break that cycle. And then third and finally, we're trying to increase or decrease the amount of time it takes to resolve all our cases. I don't have time to go into that in detail, but I can tell you that every month we are looking at statistics by prosecutor and by prosecutor team, how long it is taking them to get their cases through the system. And if there are ones that are dragging behind, we give them the attention they need to make sure that we are moving our cases through the system. Because I think that justice delayed is justice denied. And if I said punishment needs to be swift and certain, well, we need to make sure that it is swift, right? I will finally just end by saying that it is generally acknowledged that there's three different types of ways to help with the crime problem. There's prevention, there's intervention, and then there's enforcement. We deal mostly with the enforcement part, but we understand that the other two parts are important too. So things that can prevent pre-K, after-school programs, different types of GED programs to try to give people gainful means of employment to prevent them from having to do crimes in the first place. Intervention. How many of you here have heard of either Youth Villages, Memphis Allies, Heal 901? Okay, these are programs where you've got people who are involved in the system, and we intervene to try to give them the services they need so they can stop being part of the system. And then there's the enforcement, which we will definitely do and we don't shy away from. But we're using all three legs of that three-legged stool to get done what we need to do. You had asked about partnerships. I'll just conclude by saying these kinds of partnerships are absolutely essential. No one of us can do this by ourselves. Our office has to cooperate with law enforcement, with the city government, with the county government, but also with all of you, with the community, because only if the community helps can we actually do something about crime. And that means being willing to cooperate with law enforcement in a robust way. It means providing tips. It means reporting crimes. It means being able to serve as witnesses. And that's one of the reasons why I'm interested in criminal justice reform, because I think the more we reform, the more we engender trust on the part of the community, particularly the communities that are most affected by crime, have trust in the fairness of the system, the more they will cooperate with us, and with all of us together can do what we need to do to make Shelby County safer. Thanks.
Thank you, D.A. Mulroy. And one thing I love about these community forums is that you hear so much information, rich information about programs, partnerships, but also how we can get engaged, because if we want to see solutions, we can't just lean on the people here on the panel. It's also up to us to be a part of it. The next question is for Sheriff Bonner. So as we think about public safety, we often think about it in terms of our neighborhoods, but it's also our justice system. How is your office making sure that you ensure accountability, rehabilitation that D.A. Mulroy talked about, and also just care for those who are in your custody, but also as we think about their safe return back into the community?
Thank you for the question. And you've heard me talk, I guess, over the last few years about the new jail that seems to be the hot topic here recently. And I'll be in front of the county commission tomorrow, probably speaking on it as well. But let me give you some facts. As of this morning, about 9:30, there were 2,790 men down in 201. 2,790. Okay? Out of jail lease where we house female prisoners, there were 335. 335 that were out there. At juvenile court, there were 84 kids down there. When you talk new jail and new facilities and how we can help this community. Most people don't even realize when the jail was built over 40 years ago, Wi-Fi wasn't even invented, okay? That's how long the jail we're operating in now. And it's costing you taxpayers millions and millions of dollars for us to keep this place Band-Aid and patch stuff to keep it going. So I know this is not the forum or the time to talk about a new jail, but I just kind of wanted to throw it out there, is that when you start talking about trying to rehabilitate people, yeah, we have programs in the jail, things that we're doing, but you also have to realize the difference between a jail and a prison, okay? There is a difference between a jail and a prison. Jail is a pretrial. What we operate is supposed to be a pretrial facility. That's when you get arrested, you go to court, your case is handled one way or the other, and then you move on. If you get a chance to go home, fine, but if you have to go to a prison, then you move on to the prison. Unfortunately, the system is so bagged up that doesn't always happen. Right now, we're sitting on about 120 state inmates, people that have already been to trial, that's been through the prosecutor's office, been arrested through the prosecutor's office, gone to court, received their time, and they're waiting for the state to pick them up. That causes us a great deal of problems. So, because believe it or not, they would rather be in a state facility because they actually get more good time than they are in a county jail. So we would love to move them on because of our backup in intake right now. This morning we had 165 in intake. On a normal day, all of our law enforcement partners will bring us anywhere between 60 to 70 prisoners a day, okay? That's usually what happens in Memphis, Tennessee, every single day. Ladies and gentlemen, there are more coming in than going out, okay? We're taking inmates to court. Some of them are being released, some of them are making bonds, some of them are staying. Give you a prime example. Somebody wanted to challenge me on this, but I know this from a relative, okay, that was locked up in jail, and he wasn't there on a serious charge. He was there on a misdemeanor. And he said he'd rather stay in jail so he didn't have to pay probation fees to go to a probation officer. So I just stayed in jail and flagged my time. The judge let me go, and I'm scot-free. And so we see those type of things now, things that when I was growing up, I couldn't imagine being in jail this long or staying in jail that long. So when we have HISET, the ones that are with us for a length of time, where we try to help them to get their GED. We partner with nonprofits like the Final Escape, who also help people with GEDs and try to get them. In other words, ladies and gentlemen, we're trying to make a better person, okay? Even if you're in jail and you're on your way to prison, you know, we still want to impart some wisdom or try to put something in you. I have been experimenting with a program. You may have seen it on the news for about the last 2 years right now. I partnered with a group that's called Inside Circle, where inmates are having an opportunity to unpack some baggage, some trauma, real trauma, that they've gone through in their lifetime. And so when you add all these things together, yes, we care about the community, sure, we're going to keep you safe. I've put my share of people in jail over the course of my career, but I also understand that we need to have a healthy environment. We need to have a place that we can safely transition a person either out of the jail to prison, or from prison back into the community. Because the majority of people are coming back, okay? They might get their time, they might get 5 to 10 years, 2 years, whatever. It might go out to the penal farm, but they're coming back into the community. So when we partner with all of these outside agencies, and anybody can see me afterwards, if you like to volunteer down in jail, because I'm always looking for volunteers. So yeah, we'll let you out. But we're always looking for volunteers to impart wisdom, you know, faith-based community, all of these things. But it takes a village, y'all. It takes a village for all of us to get involved. I bragged on my wife before COVID hit. she was going out to jail, at least where our adjudicated juveniles were housed at. And my wife was teaching kids how to read. And I'm talking about 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, they can't even read the fry words, okay? The with, the thee, she. I'm talking about very simple words. And she was doing it then, COVID hit, so we had to shut all of that down. But hopefully now she's busy doing it with the school system now. But these are the things that we have to have youth, community to participate in to help us. Can you imagine a 15-year-old that can't read the fry words? What is he going to do? What do we expect him to do? Because he wants to wear new Jordans, he wants to wear new blue jeans, he wants to go to the concert, he wants to go and do this, and you know, all the things that young people do. But if we don't impart wisdom upon them as older adults, the people that have gone through this thing called life and still going through this thing called life, if we don't impart some wisdom and try to change the trajectory for those young people that are incarcerated right now, and that are going to come out right back into the community, to what? To what? If we don't help them. And so, you know, yeah, I put bad guys in jail, but I also realize there's another part of this scenario that we all should be concerned and that we all should be involved in. When we talk about the jail, and I can't remember which panelists talked about it, I have mental health patients, okay, that's in the jail. Do not belong in jail. They should be in some type of mental health facility. I have officers cleaning up feces out of cells 3 times a day with a power wash. Okay? This shouldn't happen. This person shouldn't be there. This person should be somewhere else. I did kind of say this in a public forum one time, and Marie Williams, the state commissioner, she did give me some additional beds, mental health beds, but we still don't have enough. Just getting through the system with the DA and the public defender, when people want to have psychological evaluation, we need doctors, we need bed space, we need places to take them to. Again, I told you, even with a new jail, a medical facility, we need better medical facilities. It's just so much in such an old building that people just don't realize how hard it is to operate it. And I'll give you one other thing and I'll leave this alone. A jail, like 1 year in your home is like 3.5 years in a jail. Because the lights are always on, the locking mechanisms are always working, the doors are being opened and closed. So, ladies and gentlemen, steel wears out too, you know, and the brick and mortar wears out. And that's where we're at as a community with the situation that we're in. I see Commissioner Bills here, and she knows we're over there always asking for money. You know, I'll be over there probably tomorrow asking for some more money. But to fix, you know, we spent $16 million, almost $17 million just to fix the doors to keep the inmates in there. Now we're talking about the inmates, but what about my employees that have to work in it, that has to do the work that, you know, many of us don't want to do. But you spending $16 to $17 million just to fix the door, just because they figured out the old sliding doors when the jail was first built. They figured out how to open the doors, so they were coming out when they wanted to come out. So, you know, it was like, you know, party over here, you know, or something. You know, I mean, it was just ridiculous. So we're spending an exorbitant amount of money, and we're still putting it into an old building. And we were the only. How many of y'all been in jail? Don't raise your hand. I was just joking. But we're the only jail in the state of Tennessee with an escalator in it, okay? And it's not even ADA compliant now because it's just narrow, okay? You go notice when you go to the airport and different places, the wide escalator, but we're the only jail in the state of Tennessee with escalators. My elevators break down. What does that mean, Sheriff? How do we get food up to the floors to feed the inmates and stuff? You know, it's just a lot of things that I hope that as we have community meetings, I hope that you will learn more from me and from our staff and buy into it. I didn't mean to get off into this. Y'all gave me the mic. But it's just been so many things that have gone on that a new facility could cure a lot of things with our mental health and our medical needs. Even having green space, you know, when it gets too hot to go outside, we can't even take the detainees up on the roof. Because you know what Memphis summer's like. I mean, you know, 100 degrees outside is 115 on that concrete up on the top of the jail. That's where the gym is at. We're one of the gyms. We do have an indoor gym. But these are things that we shouldn't have to do this. We should have more room for programming, more opportunities to give these young men an opportunity to be successful. When they get out, at least in part, some kind of wisdom in them, and that you hope that when they get out, that they will continue on. Okay, I'm gonna give it up.
Thank you. You actually answered two questions, because I was going to ask you about the jail, but I was easing into it, so thank you for addressing that. You gave us many ways, I think, that we can be part of the solution and partner with you all at the table. And one of the things that we often hear about is community policing. So this is for Chief Davis. Tell us, what does community policing actually look like? What does it tangibly in real life look like for us? And then what are some of the shifts or innovations that we need to be thinking about, you all at this table, but also us in this room, as we are thinking about prevention for public safety going forward?
So that's always a big question, because really, to tell you the truth, community policing is a philosophy that it can't really just be taught. Matter of fact, the DA is a term that I use quite often. Is a philosophy that has to be baked into the organization. It has to be not just the chief saying, oh, we believe in community policing, not just the commander saying community policing is great. It means that every officer, every encounter, they have to believe in what community policing means. And when I tell them that our community members are our customers, they are absolutely that. Everything that we do every day is for our customers. Our community members pay our salaries. Our community members, I tell them, I said, the cars don't belong to you. The uniforms don't belong to you. It belongs to our customers. And everything that we do should be focused on how do we make a safe community for them. So community policing to me is how do we work with community members and give them what they want. And what they want is different in different communities. Some communities want people to stop driving so fast through their residential, area, right? Yes.
And that's all over the city. Some people want to be able to get on the interstate in the morning. It's not just on Sunday evenings when, you see all the drag race and everything. I see it at 7 o'clock in the morning when I'm headed in. And it's not just young people in muscle cars. It's the guys and gals who go to work every day, driving like backside hell sometimes, and it creates dangerous environments. So when I say community policing, it's all of us. How do I manage myself as a community member and help create a safer environment? Am I the one that's out there driving fast too? Am I the one that's riding around with a counterfeit tag? There's a lot of that going on. Sometimes we have to be responsible for our own behavior in order to make our community safer and to work with law enforcement in order to identify people in our community. And I'm telling you, we would not be successful if, some good old folks in the neighborhood picked up the telephone and said, hey, there's something going on over here at this house. I don't know what it is, but at 2 o'clock in the morning, it's people running in and out of there. And just tips like that help us to find, chop shops. Somebody's got 10 cars outside in front of the house, and the cars are changing on a regular basis. Sometimes give you a hunch. Something's going on at that particular location unless they're a car dealership right there in your neighborhood. So it really requires the community to work with us to identify things and be nosy neighbors. Identify things that can help us to make your community safer. And I gave those little examples, but I believe that community policing really is about how every officer represents themselves, treat
our citizens as their customers and understand that when we get called, it's because somebody is in need of some kind of support in some way. They don't need an attitude, they need thorough, they need accurate work done, and that's what we're trying to do. Raise that professionalism bar to the highest level and be a competitive department so that not only are we answering the call for our community members, but we're a competitive agency where people want to come and work for the Memphis Police Department.
Thank you.
Oh, and I need to make a plug real quick. If you don't have your cameras at home registered, go to our website, register your cameras. You'd be surprised how many residential cameras that have been registered have helped us to solve, serious crimes. Abductions, all kinds of different things that have happened in our community. We have been able to tap into, pick up the telephone, call a neighbor who has had their camera registered. Ms. Jones, would you look at your camera between 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning? Tell us, do you see a black SUV right? Yes, I do see a black SUV. I can even see what the tag number is. That's how we have been able to identify people who have committed serious crimes in our community. If it wasn't for you all, if it wasn't for our community, we would not have the kind of success that we do. Register your cameras, connect to Memphis. It doesn't require us to do anything with your camera. All we need is to know that you have one if something were to happen in your community. Thank you.
I do have a question for our leaders on this panel, and I would like to use myself as an example for the question. And my name is David Pleasure, and as we discuss crime reduction in Memphis and Shelby County, I would like to ask about current tactics being used for that goal and how they are affecting the community right now. This past Thursday, I was pulled over by police and taken into custody for a warrant I was not aware I had for a case that had been dismissed 5 months prior. Within those 5 months, I had not reoffended or committed any violations that would have given legitimacy to the state reopening my case. The charges were reflected as though they were new offenses, and my bond was more than double. While remanded, I discovered that there were many men there just like me who had had old cases reopened and warrants issued without their knowledge or any reoffenses. Had not Shadida Jones or Black Lives Matter advocates here in Memphis not been made aware of my situation and helped me, I would have still been in custody right now and would have lost everything that I have. As we discuss crime and issues like poverty that have a direct correlation, tactics like these that operate under the guise of fighting crime are actually perpetuating poverty and targeting individuals who are not active offenders but are overwhelmingly minority. This tactic does not reduce crime. It doesn't make the community safer. It induces further strain on individuals who have already gone through the legal process and are actively trying to move beyond their past mistakes. And it's happening on a massive scale. It's disingenuous, it's nefarious, and it's completely antithetical to everything that has been talked about on this stage today. I ask you as leaders, what is the criteria currently being used to review past cases to determine their need to be reopened? And how are those tactics useful for fighting current violent crime when they are targeting non-active past offenders?
I'll start off because it sort of sounds like there's some system issues that you speak of. That information and systems, obviously, from what I could hear, and I know this requires probably a deeper conversation about what the history was and what happened and why information is still in a system. So, our officers on a regular basis, they operate and trust, the information that they have in front of them, whether a warrant is active or whatever the case might be. So I think we probably just need to take a deeper dive to figure out exactly what systems might need to be vetted, how do we go about auditing our systems to make sure that the information is correct, so a situation like what you experienced we can avoid. Anybody want to?
Well, I don't disagree with anything that Chief Davis said. I think she said it quite well. I just want to say, David, I'm very sorry that happened to you. That should not have happened to you. That's an example of our system failing. If the case was dismissed, that should have been the end of it. You should not have been picked up and had your liberty deprived for any period of time. Obviously, as the Chief said, there is a system problem, a breakdown there. Once we dismiss the case at the DA's office and the court accepts the dismissal, the various clerk's offices are supposed to record that. It's supposed to go into the system, and law enforcement, as they're out patrolling, they shouldn't be picking anybody up. And you mentioned reopening cases. I know of no broad effort, certainly not in my office, to reopen cases. We have enough active cases as it is. If a case has been resolved, we have no interest in reopening it. And the point you made about racial disparities in the criminal justice system, I'm glad that Black Lives Matter was able to help you out. I think it's a great organization. I'm glad they were able to help it. I think they make good points about racial disparities in our system. It's something we need to measure better and address more and make more of an effort. We know that there are racial disparities in the system, even in types of offenses in which, like for example, simple marijuana possession or traffic or things like that, where we know the rate of offenses, it doesn't change between black and white. And we need to do a better job of measuring it and addressing it. So, thank you for bringing the problem to our attention. I know Chief's going to look at it. I'm going to look at it as well to see if there's a significant number of these cases that have been dismissed, but that information isn't being communicated to law enforcement that's patrolling. That's a problem. Because as the sheriff will tell you, we've got enough people in jail already. We don't need more people going in there that don't belong there because the case was dismissed. And as far as we're concerned, we've got enough real cases to deal with. We shouldn't be dealing with fake cases like yours.
And that sounds like it's something that's still looming?
No, this was something that was issued on the 7th of August, and the case was dismissed in March. I was incredulous because the police officer told me that I was a fugitive from justice and that I had warrants out for my arrest. And I told him, I know you're lying because I haven't done anything.
So when I say still looming, this is something you're still trying to address?
He
What
had to
happened
pay
you?
2 separate bonds for this particular issue.
So I want to talk to you after we get done so that we can really dig deep. When you present a problem, I don't want us to just give an answer because you're not the only one that might be experiencing that problem. We need to fix problems that cause our community members trouble like that. So if you've got a few minutes after, I'd like to talk more to you about what kind of duress you were put under as far as your fines and things like that, so that we can talk about it.
And I like a lot of what I'm hearing as far as programs in the DA's office within law enforcement. But I think the biggest thing that's hindering the communities is the communication from law enforcement, from the DA's office, back to victims of crimes. Again, like this young man, I have to speak from experience. My grandson was murdered, accidentally shot in Cane Creek Apartments. And this was 2 years ago, and the detective that was handling the case initially spoke to me every day about what was going on. And once he took a promotion, the ball was dropped and I couldn't get an answer from the police department at all, anyone to answer. I allowed them to keep their cell phones so they could do whatever tracking they had to do. I've never gotten that back. I just haven't heard anything. The second part of this is, I think the communication needs to be better. Maybe we can have a department that handles relaying information back and forth if we don't have that. I think that'll help because without that communicating back to the victims, it causes us to start losing trust in the law enforcement itself. The second part of this is the Cane Creek Apartments have been known to be a rather violent area. Why does it take so long for the DA's office, law enforcement, to address these areas that are hot areas? We have to allow so many people to be harmed, killed, robbed, before we even go over and hold the landlords responsible for what's going on in those areas. What's the criteria before we go in and speak with them?
We can do what we needed to do. One thing that was really missing in the police department is to have a victim witness unit unit that responds on a regular basis to the victims, the surviving victims of crime, especially when the detectives are running around from one call to the next. Sometimes they pick up the telephone, but they don't call enough, and we realize that. So we're hiring 5 victim witness specialists through this grant so that we have our own victim witness unit so that they can keep updates between you and the DA's office and whether or not this is a case that even though it's a cold case, what type of new leads are we getting, and having that communication, because it's only fair to the families of victims because the loss doesn't go away. So thank you for that, and that was timely, and I'm glad to talk to you more about that. We're looking for actually a space in 170 North Main Street where this new unit will be stood up. So that's how we're utilizing that money. And the other question was about, nuisance properties. You said Cane Creek Apartments?
Yeah.
Y'all familiar with Cane Creek Apartments, Chief?
Good evening. My name is Barbara Mabry, and I'd like to know, how do we get the sky pump in our neighborhood? The county.
Right, Moses,
Commissioner
this
has a
person
point on
right
that?
here, and the commissioner.
Well, if you live in my commission district, I will make sure you get one. So if you give me your address, like that is a commission-driven initiative that we've been doing to support the Memphis Police Department. So I'll get your information.
I live in the same area. What I'm concerned about is speed bumps. We have people up to 5 in the morning racing through the streets. Now, I'm retired, so time has no essence, but it's just annoying to hear a car racing through the street at 5 in the morning. So I was just wondering, how do we get speed bumps and how do you start a neighborhood watch? Because I'm on the corner and my blind's always open. I'm keeping on.
We're glad about that. So, as far as speed bumps, it's not really our area, but what we can do is we can let the folks in city government know about your particular street. But we are increasing our neighborhood watch, and we would love to help you start the neighborhood watch. We are giving out neighborhood watch grants as well to neighborhood leaders so that they can use that money to support cameras, other programs in the neighborhood. So they'll be sending out applications to those individuals in a neighborhood that might be interested in applying. Those grants are about $2,500 per grant. Sometimes it may not sound like a lot of money, but the neighborhoods are really happy to be able to use that money, whether it's for signage, neighborhood watch signs, or whatever it is that you think that you want. But I want to get your address so that we can send that over to traffic and engineering with city government. It's a big process for speed bumps. It's almost like you got to lay your life on the line to get a speed bump, but we'll work on it.
Well, I called about speed bumps 4 years ago, and I received a letter, and the gentleman in the letter, he stated that gave me a whole lot of rigmarole that goes through first come, first served. Well, it's been 4 years, and when I drive around in certain part of the city, I see certain zip codes have speed bumps, and I know that my request was done. I called them 4 years ago, and still have not heard.
Are you all on the same street?
Yeah. Yes.
Everybody on the same street? Yes, Chief?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, one good thing is each precinct, every month, holds a neighborhood watch where the community comes to the precinct. So sometimes just going to the precinct, talking to the colonel about cameras, those kind of problems, they can help inform you how to do it, or they can help you do it. So that's a very good thing to attend. They do it at the precinct, sometimes it's maybe at a different location, but that's a very good thing to get involved with your area and your precinct and get to know the police officers that actually work that area, because they'll also attend those meetings. And then you get to know the neighborhood watch person at that precinct who actually gets out in the community a little bit more than just the officers. So that's a good little thing to do.
Absolutely. Where are my speed bump people? Where you are? Raise your hand. Okay. Y'all on my speed bump? Okay, Major over here, he's gonna get your exact address, And what we're gonna do is make an appeal to the engineering department, traffic and engineering department and city government. It's not our department, but sometimes when I ask them to do things, they listen to me. So, we'll see about what we can do for your street. Oh, and by the way, the assistant commander, stand up, boys. This is assistant commander right here in this particular precinct, Felipe. You want to talk to them? Tell them what you are, what you're trying to do.
Yes, ma'am. So, good evening, everybody. Felipe Boyce, Assistant Commander of Ridgeway Station, and just to piggyback off what the chief said, we had 2 community meetings this morning. We had one at 11 with our neighborhood watch, Ms. Hill. She's a great asset. We met with our apartment managers, and then we had one at 5 this evening with our clergy. So, anything you guys are in our district, reach out to me. I can leave you my number, reach you afterwards. We can definitely help you with any concerns.
And we're meeting with apartments on a regular basis, so thank you for telling us about Cane Creek. We are actually meeting with these managers. I go out, I sit down with them and ask them, is it something that we can do to help you? Let us know. If there are people in the apartment that need to be evicted, sometimes that's the problem. You got people that are entertaining all kinds of craziness, and the people that are coming in the apartment environment don't even live there, and they're causing all kinds of problems. So we'll be looking at that apartment complex as well.
Yes, ma'am. I'd like to see, when you wake up and you see a heinous crime, a violent crime that has been committed in daylight in the public, but then it's not really, I won't say it's not addressed. I would like to see enforcement either address it on TV or something and make a statement to the criminals that are out there that we are not just lax on what you're doing. You find out things from Fox 13, but where is the enforcement to get on the TV and say, this is my city, you cannot take this city from us, and we're going to do something about it. I think the criminals here have become complacent to say that Memphis isn't going to do anything. You know, we can just keep committing these crimes in broad daylight on video, and it's not even addressed. I'd like to wake up to a press conference or some type of conference from law enforcement to say, I see you, and this is our city, and you're not going to take over our city. It's barely addressed. And I'll take the 2 crimes that were recent. The shooting with the guys in, I believe it was Frazier, where they're just out there with rifles and shooting up the city. I never saw that addressed by law enforcement. Like, get on TV and say, you know, you can't do this in my city. Make a statement. I'd like to see a statement being made that we cannot be run over by these 15, 14-year-old criminals that know and see that it's okay to go out there and shoot up 5, 6 houses or 5, 6 people, and enforcement doesn't make a statement. Other cities, I see police chief or somebody get on news in Mississippi, in some little town in Mississippi, and say, this is my city, and you're not going to take this city from me, and that we're going to do something about it. They're just taking over this city, and they have become complacent to being arrested, that they could do this on camera, and it's not addressed. I have not yet seen that particular crime addressed. It should have been a conference. Before I see it on Fox 13, I'd like to see law enforcement say, we see you, and we're going to do something about it.
And thank you for that. We do have some issues as far as being able to get messaging out when we want to get it out. Sometimes it's only when the media wants to talk to us, and sometimes it's not about what we feel like we need to talk about. We use a lot of social media platforms as well to get information out because of the fact that we don't have as much control as some of our other cities where they have just public service announcements. I have to pay for interviews sometimes. I have to pay for, and we do it because that's the only way sometimes that we get information out. Mainly because of the fact that our media sources are very selective about what it is that they want to put out in the news media. We could have a crime that occurred 2 weeks ago. You're going to see that same crime over and over and over again for 2 weeks. We are really trying to work around that too. But your point is well taken. We want to use our media sources in a way that they're serving the community as well. I do a lot of press conferences. I don't know what channel you watch. What channel do you get? Fox 13. Fox 13. Yeah, I do a lot of press conferences, and sometimes I tell my PIOs, they ought to be tired of seeing me. You know, because there's so much to say, and we hope that when we say it, we're trying to make sure that that one sound bite is what you need to hear. And sometimes when it's not, that's why we're trying to find other forums like community meetings and having our precincts, all 9 of our precincts, to have engagement with our community members too. Just some of the operations that we've done, trying to send a message that you cannot commit crimes in our city. You're absolutely right, and I agree. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Tiffany Henderson. I didn't know that you all want to be here. My initial question was around autism awareness and what type of community engagement you all plan to involve community and police officers in training. That's the biggest thing. Is I have a 13-year-old son who was autistic, and pretty soon once he phases out of the school, the mental health resources and things like that, those things tend to fade out. But what are you all doing to educate police officers on the team, as well as communities, the people in the community, the neighborhoods, and how to interact with them? And to stay on subject, what was spoken to me, what was spoken prior to the other people speaking about crime. Somebody else mentioned about another apartment complex. I stay in Parkgate Paisley. I call you all the time.
Tell me your apartment again.
Parkgate Paisley.
Parkgate
Paisley on
Paisley.
Ridgeway, straight up like maybe less than a minute, maybe 20 seconds is a high skip and jump. So I live at Parkgate Paisley, and I call you all often, not because of the consistent ones that I hear in my complex, it's because the Lakes of Ridgeway is directly next door to my apartment complex. It's 2 apartment complexes on Ridgeway. So I stay directly in the middle. And so there's a fence that divides Parkgate Paisley and Lakes of Ridgeway. It is consistently loud, obnoxious noise, music playing from sun up to sundown. So I just wanted to know if you all could address that or have more police presence in those areas, and there's no lighting. So I know someone spoke earlier about the cameras or lighting or things being set up, if that's something that we could do in between, because I was told, because I did speak to the apartment complex, and they told me that that was a city issue or I had to speak with MPD. They give me the runaround, so that's why I'm posing the question now. But so I was really concerned with that. But also, again, to circle back to my initial reason for being here, had I known you all were going to be here, I would have been better prepared. Here on time, I didn't know you all were going to be here. But what community activities and involvement, the community engagement, what are we doing? Because I just don't, my son is 13, he'll be driving before you know it, he's practicing, all of those things, but I don't want my son to be another Elijah McCoy. I don't know if you all heard of that gentleman, or if you follow any stories where people who are on the spectrum or that falls under that neurodivergent umbrella. I don't want my son to be a next victim. So what are we doing? And I have ideas. I'm willing to help out. I'm willing to be a part of it. I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, thank you. You said a whole bunch of stuff. but it's good stuff. And there's some opportunities for us to possibly partner too, because we do have training for those officers that are in the community for autism awareness, so that they can recognize the signs of autism. But not only that, we're also using various types of tools to be able to communicate well. So I think there's an opportunity for us to really talk more. Do you live in Ridgeway Station?
I do. I was like maybe 2 minutes.
Okay, and we can also have our neighborhood watch people to reach out to you. We like to be able to talk to the folks that, we go into the department managers' offices and sit down and talk to them about what it is that they need to do to shore up and to address the various types of nuisance problems that are occurring. But you're saying that your problem is at an apartment that's adjacent. Okay, so we'll have some follow-up conversations so we can get some very specific information.
I tried to run an autism bill in Nashville for young people, particularly your child is in that position to where, and I'm trying to remember, DA, you may help me out, that we were trying to get it to where that person, that autistic child, could pass an envelope to a police officer and make them realize that we are trained in the sheriff's office on how to interact with kids or even adults with autism, but I'm just not sure where that law went because there's a lot of variations in Nashville. You know, you have an idea coming from West Tennessee is not good enough, you know, so they'll change it. Yeah, but I think that there may be something on the books that they were working towards, and I'm just not sure.
Yeah, thank you to the Tri-State Defender for hosting us. I think doing more of what we're doing right now, having open conversations, and, you know, for the police department to be accessible to the community so that when you have problems, we're quick to respond and quick to help with whatever resolutions there are. Today we found out about some apartment complexes that we need to visit. My folks have taken copious notes. We plan to follow up with that. So thank you all very much.
I'll also say thanks again to the Tri-State Defender. As I mentioned earlier, I think the way that folks can help is to, provide tips, report crimes, serve as witnesses. If you have questions about cases that are already in the system, already arrest has been made, then please feel free to call my office and we'll hunt down the case and be able to tell you the status, whether you're a victim or a defendant or somebody knows a victim or defendant. We'll help you out. I want to say before I close that I'm a little disappointed in the moderator tonight. She skipped over the questions about the song that gives you joy or the hidden talents, and I was really curious what the hidden talents and favorite songs of all these people were.
Go ahead and tell us that.
No. I'm not going to say it if they're not going to say it. I'll talk to them later. And I'm available afterwards if individuals have questions. But I will end with this. I wanted to present a particular thank you to the sponsor of this event in a style that I've become very accustomed to. So I'm going to do a limerick for the Tri-State Defender, and I'm just going to end by saying they're the real deal, they ain't no pretender, so while I prosecute offenders, I appreciate this media, we sure as heck need you. 3 cheers for the Tri-State Defender.
That's your special talent. Mr. Gibbons, you're after that.
That's a hard act to follow. I want to respond to a couple of things I've heard. First of all, David, what happened to you should not have happened. When I was DA, I saw various examples of what you went through. And it's not a justification for it, but a little bit of an explanation. We have had a problem for decades in the criminal justice system of sloppy data entry, to be perfectly honest. And I think that's probably what happened in your case, that the right information was not entered and mistakes happened. That's not an excuse. It should not happen. But my guess is that's probably what did occur. But I'm very, very sorry for what happened to you. And again, it shouldn't have happened. Number 2, you kind of held back on the sheriff in your comments. But I want to say, and Commissioner, I really believe this, the sheriff needs a new jail. The community needs a new jail. And if the commission decided tomorrow to build a new jail, it would take, 5 years? 5 years. And in the meantime, the county's in a position of having to put some very expensive Band-Aids on the jail that is just breaking down. That's where we are. Last but not least, I want to reiterate what the chief and the DA said. While the crime trends are good, most people don't feel it yet. And in order for people to feel it, we've got to try crime down a lot more than we have. So the job is not finished.
Thank you, Skills. And thank all of you for being here and listening to us. You've heard we've been all over the place with crime and what the various positions that we hold, and the work that we're doing. We don't do this in a silo. We don't do it in a vacuum. We work together, and that's one of the things that I hope that you will leave here knowing that all of us work together. We may not always agree, but that's okay. I don't agree with my wife all the time, but after 43 years, she still let me stay there, But, so it's okay that we don't always agree, but we've got to work. We got to have these types of community meetings. We've got to be able to work through some of the problems, and we're gonna work through them. As I told you earlier, I was talking with a commander about things that were going on now in unincorporated Shelby County, what was driving some of our numbers. And I'll just give you one thing we talked about was thefts from motor vehicles. And how do we drive them into Memphis out of Shelby County? I'm just kidding, we're so close. We are so close. But it's going to take community partners for all of us to work together. And we're looking at the data. We have data meetings all day long. I've been looking at data. I got homework assignment with data in it tonight that I'm looking at. And the chiefs, and we have these meetings and we talk about what can we do better and how do we make this thing really work. So hopefully in the next few months, you'll see it. And to the lady that was addressing about us being on TV, you know, sometimes what I get from the citizens a lot of times is that I don't even watch the news because I see so much bad stuff. And so I don't even watch the news. So I understand what you're saying and asking us. I think we've been on a homicide investigation that we're working on. We went to the news media on it. But I understand what you're saying. And I will talk to my public information officers about, you know, maybe being a little bit more. We do the social media thing and everything, but sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. So you have to understand when we can give that information out there or say that, but just saying we're not going to stand for it, that's no problem. But I understand what you're saying.
All I'm saying is that let them know that
right.
This isn't the Wild Wild West, and
right.
we can just do what we want to do, because Memphis is not going to punish us.
Right.
You know, like that police chief in Arkansas, he said if we run you in the ditch, we just run you in the ditch. That's the kind of attitude that we're going to have. If you're doing a crime and we chasing you and you end up in a ditch where your car's flipped over, so be it.
We got a whole lot of that going on.
I'm going to let you have the last word tonight.